The council chamber was the largest room Commander Velthar had ever seen. It stretched so far that the ceiling disappeared into shadows above. 73 different species sat in their designated sections, each area built to match their specific needs. Some breathed different gases, some needed water tanks, others floated in energy fields. But today they all shared the same emotion: fear. Velthar stood at the center platform, his forearms clasped behind his back. His scales, usually bright blue, had dulled to a worried gray. He had brought news that would change everything. "The Devourer swarm has taken another world," he announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Colony 12 is gone. 7 billion lives, all consumed in 3 days. Silence filled the massive room. Then came the noise. Representatives began shouting, clicking, singing, and transmitting their panic in 73 different ways. The council chamber became chaos. Velthar waited. He had expected this. The Devourer swarm was unlike any enemy the Galactic Coalition had ever faced. They did not want territory. They did not want resources to trade. They wanted everything. They landed on worlds and stripped them bare of all life, all technology, all matter. Then they moved to the next world. They never stopped. They never slowed. They only grew. The council leader, an ancient being named Kormash, raised 6 of her tentacles. The gesture meant silence. Slowly, the chamber quieted. "How many ships did we lose defending Colony 12? She asked. 247 capital ships, Velthar replied. Approximately 4,000 support vessels. Total casualties exceed 12 million military personnel. More shocked sounds filled the chamber. The Coalition had never lost so many ships in a single battle. "And the swarm?" Kormash asked. "They lost approximately 1,000 vessels, but our intelligence suggests they have already replaced those losses. They grow faster than we can hurt them." A representative from the Corvin species stood. His kind looked like walking crystals, and his voice sounded like wind chimes. "We must surrender. Offer them half the galaxy. Perhaps they will be satisfied." "They do not communicate," Velthar said. "We have tried every method we know. They do not respond to any signals. They simply consume." "Then we must evacuate," another representative said. "Abandon the outer colonies. Pull back to the core worlds. That will only delay our extinction," Velthar said. His voice was tired. He had been fighting this war for 6 months. He had seen good soldiers die. He had seen entire worlds burn. "The swarm will follow. They always follow." In the back of the chamber, an old being slowly stood. His name was Tolkien, and he was the Coalition's chief historian. His people lived for centuries, and Tolkien was among the oldest. His skin looked like ancient parchment, and his eyes were clouded with age. But when he spoke, everyone listened. "There is an old legend," Tolkien said. His voice was soft, but it carried through the silent chamber. "A story from before the Coalition, from the dark ages when species first reached the stars." "This is not the time for bedtime stories," the Corvin representative said. "Perhaps it is exactly the time," Tolkien replied. He moved slowly to a data console and activated it. Holographic images appeared above the council floor. These fragments were recovered from ruins on 6 different worlds, all pre-Coalition, all at least 10,000 years old. The images showed strange symbols, alien writing that no one had seen before, and pictures of creatures that stood on 2 legs, had 2 arms, and smooth skin without scales, fur, or armor. "The legend speaks of a species called humans," Tolkien continued. "According to these fragments, they came from a death world, a planet so dangerous that merely living there was a daily battle. Extreme weather, deadly predators, diseases that killed millions. What does this have to do with our situation?" Kormash asked. "The legends say humans were different from other species. They fought wars so terrible that they nearly destroyed their own world multiple times. But something kept them from destroying themselves completely. The texts call it stubbornness. Others call it insanity. They refused to quit even when defeat was certain." Tolkien changed the holographic display. Now it showed crude drawings of battles, humans fighting strange creatures, humans in primitive spacecraft, humans always moving forward, never retreating. According to the legends, humans had a saying, "We do not abandon our own." They would risk everything to save a single member of their species. They fought with a ferocity that other species found terrifying, not because they were stronger or faster, but because they simply would not stop. "These are myths," Velthar said gently. He respected Tolkien, but myths would not save them. Old stories told to give hope to frightened children. Perhaps, and Tolkien agreed. But every myth has a seed of truth, and there is something else. He changed the display again. The last confirmed sighting of humans was 4,000 years ago. A single ship, damaged and fleeing from something. It jumped into hyperspace heading toward Sector 0. Then nothing. No more sightings, no more signals. The species simply vanished. Sector 0 is a dead region, someone said. Nothing there but dying stars and radiation. No one goes there. Exactly, Tolkien said. What if they went there to hide? What if they are still there? Even if this species existed, even if they somehow survived in Sector 0, why would they help us? Cormash asked. We are strangers to them. Tolkien looked at the holographic images of humans. Because according to every legend, every fragment, every story we have found, humans had one defining characteristic. They helped those who could not help themselves. They fought for others, not just themselves. It was their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. The chamber fell silent. Representatives looked at each other. Hope and doubt mixed together. Finally, Cormash spoke. Even if we wanted to search for these mythical humans, we do not have time. The swarm advances every day. We must focus on defense. There is one possibility, Velthar said slowly. An idea was forming in his mind. The ancient beacon network. The emergency broadcast system from before the coalition. That system has not been used in 10,000 years, Cormash said. We do not even know if it still functions. It was designed to reach every corner of the galaxy, Velthar said, including Sector 0. If humans exist, if they are listening, they would hear it. And if they do not exist? If this is just a waste of time, the Corvin representative asked. Velthar looked around the chamber. At the 73 species who had built a civilization together. At the representatives who were trying desperately to save their people. Then we have lost nothing but time, he said. And time is something we will lose anyway when the swarm arrives. The vote was close. Many representatives thought it was foolish to waste resources on a legend, but others, perhaps sensing they had no better options, agreed. 3 days later, the ancient beacon network activated for the first time in 10,000 years. The message was simple, translated into every known ancient language and basic mathematical sequences that any technological civilization could understand. The galaxy bleeds. Billions are dying. An enemy consumes all in its path. If any hear this, we beg for aid. These are our coordinates. Please, help us. The message broadcast across the entire galaxy. It reached dead systems and living ones. It passed through nebulas and around black holes. It went everywhere, and then they waited. Days passed. Then weeks. Hope faded quickly. The swarm took 2 more colonies. The death count rose. Velthar sat in his quarters looking at reports of the latest defeat. They were losing. Slowly but certainly they were losing. The myth of humans was just that. A myth. A desperate story told by a desperate people. Then his communication console activated. An urgent message from Deep Space Monitoring. Commander, you need to see this. We received a response to the beacon. Velthar's scales shifted to bright orange. Surprise. What does it say? It is in pure mathematics. Universal constants. Anyone with technology could decode it. What does it say? Velthar repeated. The response was simple. Just a few words that would change everything. Coordinates received. We are coming. Hold the line. The transmission originated from Sector 0. The response from Sector 0 changed everything. Within hours, every military installation in the coalition received the news. A species had answered their desperate call. Someone was coming to help, but who were they? And could they really make a difference? Velthar stood in the command center, watching the long-range scanners. 3 weeks had passed since the response. 3 weeks of watching the swarm consume 2 more colonies. 3 weeks of hoping the reply was not a cruel joke. Commander, we are detecting massive hyperspace distortions, a scanner operator announced. Her voice shook with excitement. Sector 0 boundary. Multiple signatures emerging. How many? Velthar asked. The operator stared at her screen. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, double-checking the readings. Commander, I am counting over 500 distinct signatures. No, wait, 700. The number keeps climbing. Impossible, someone muttered. No fleet that large could hide in Sector 0. But the scanners did not lie. One by one, ships emerged from hyperspace. They appeared in perfect formation. organized into battle groups with military precision. These were not merchant vessels or exploration ships. These were warships. Velthar studied the display. The ship designs were unlike anything in Coalition records. Sleek hulls covered in angular armor, weapon ports everywhere, energy signatures that made no sense according to known technology. These ships radiated power. "They are transmitting," the communications officer announced. "Put it through," Velthar ordered. Static filled the speakers. Then a voice. It spoke in galactic standard, but with an accent no one recognized. The voice was calm, confident, and somehow warm despite the formal military tone. "This is Captain Hyun-Soo of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. Humans do not ignore those who ask for help. Transmitting our identification codes and requesting permission to enter Coalition space." The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the speakers as if the voice itself was a miracle. "Did he say humans?" someone whispered. Velthar felt his scales shift through 6 different colors in as many seconds. Shock, excitement, fear, hope, disbelief, and finally determination. The legends were real. Humans existed, and they had come. "Grant them permission," Velthar said, "and get me a direct line to the council now." Within the hour, the council chamber was full again. Every representative had arrived, many still in their sleep clothing or private attire. They gathered to witness history. The holographic display activated, showing Captain Hyun-Soo for the first time. He appeared to be in his middle years by human standards, with short dark hair graying at the temples and eyes that seemed to see everything. He wore a dark blue uniform with minimal decoration. Behind him, the bridge of his ship bustled with activity. "Greetings to the Galactic Coalition," Hyun-Soo said. He gave a slight bow of his head. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance. We have been monitoring from a distance for many years. When we heard your call, we decided it was time to stop hiding." "Why were you hiding?" Cormash asked. The ancient council leader leaned forward, her tentacles moving in curiosity. Hyun-Soo's expression grew darker. 4,000 years ago, humanity reached the stars with hope and excitement. We encountered other species and tried to establish peaceful contact. It went badly, very badly. There was a war. Millions died on both sides. We learned that the galaxy was not ready for us, and we were not ready for the galaxy. "So you retreated to Sector 0, Tulquin said. The old historian's voice carried wonder and vindication. "The legends were true. Some of them," Hyun-Soo agreed. "We spent 4,000 years building our strength, developing our technology, and watching. We placed monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. We listened. We learned. We waited for the right time to reveal ourselves again." "And you think this is the right time?" Velthar asked. "When someone asks for help, the time is always right," Hyun-Soo said simply. "We have been observing the Devourer swarm. We know what you face. We know you cannot stop them alone. So we are here to help." "With respect, Captain, you bring 700 ships," the Corvin representative said. "We have lost thousands of vessels fighting this enemy. How can your fleet make a difference?" Hyun-Soo smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who knew things others did not. "Because humans fight differently than you do. We have studied your battle records. Your tactics are logical, efficient, designed to minimize casualties and preserve resources. These are good strategies for most wars. But not this one?" Cormash asked. "But not this one," Hyun-Soo confirmed. "The swarm does not care about casualties. It does not fear death. It only understands consumption and growth. To fight such an enemy, you need a species that understands something the swarm does not." "What is that?" Velthar asked. "Controlled insanity," Hyun-Soo said. "The willingness to take risks that seem suicidal. The stubbornness to keep fighting when all logic says to retreat. The human ability to look at impossible odds and say, 'Not today.' We have spent 10,000 years of our history fighting each other. We learned how to win against enemies who should have beaten us. Now we will teach those lessons to the swarm." The council representatives exchanged looks. Some seemed hopeful. Others looked worried. This human spoke of war with a casualness that was disturbing. "Where do you need us?" Hyun-Soo asked. Velthar pulled up a star map. Red markers showed swarm positions. Blue markers showed coalition defensive lines. The red was winning. "The Crucible Nebula," Velthar said, pointing to a location where blue and red markers met. "We have fortified positions there, protecting 7 core worlds with a combined population of 40 billion. The swarm is gathering forces for a major assault. Our intelligence suggests they will attack within 2 weeks." Then we have time to prepare, Hyun-soo said. He studied the map carefully. With your permission, I would like to bring my fleet to the Crucible Nebula immediately. My Fleet Admiral Dae-jung will coordinate with your forces. You are not the Fleet Admiral? Kormash asked, surprised. I command the 1st Contact Division, Hyun-soo explained. My job was to find you and make sure you did not shoot at us when we arrived. Admiral Dae-jung commands the battle fleet. He is much better at the fighting than I am. The Terran fleet moved quickly. Within 3 days, all 700 human ships had joined the coalition forces at the Crucible Nebula. The arrival of the humans boosted morale throughout the defensive line. Soldiers who had been preparing to die fighting now had hope. Velthar met Admiral Dae-jung in person. The human military commander was older than Hyun-soo, with gray hair and a face marked by scars. He looked like someone who had seen many battles and learned from all of them. They met in a conference room aboard Velthar's flagship. Dae-jung studied the defensive positions with experienced eyes. You have built a strong defensive line, Dae-jung said. Multiple layers of fortifications, overlapping fields of fire, good supply lines. It is well done, but, Velthar asked. He could hear the unspoken word. But it will not work against the swarm, Dae-jung said. They will throw themselves at your defenses until they break through. They do not care about losses. Eventually, they will overwhelm you through sheer numbers. Then what do you suggest? Dae-jung smiled. It was the same smile Hyun-soo had shown. The smile of someone planning something dangerous. We bait them, Dae-jung said. We make the human fleet look like an easy target. Exposed. Vulnerable. The swarm will commit everything to destroy us because we are new, unknown, potentially dangerous. They will want to eliminate us quickly. That is suicide, Velthar said. They will surround and destroy your fleet. They will try, Dae-jung agreed. But humans learned long ago how to fight when surrounded. We call it a kill box. You let the enemy surround you, make them think they have won. Then you spring the trap. What trap? Dae-jung explained his plan. With every word, Velthar's scales changed color. Horror, admiration, fear, and reluctant respect mixed together. The plan was insane. It required perfect timing. It depended on the human fleet taking terrible damage. Many humans would die. Your casualties will be enormous, Velthar said. Yes, Dae-jung said simply. They will. But we will win. And when we win, the swarm will learn something important. What is that? That humans keep their promises. We promise to help you. We will help you. No matter the cost. Velthar looked at the human admiral, at the scars on his face, at the absolute certainty in his eyes. And he understood something the legends had tried to explain. Humans were not fearless. They were not invincible. But they were stubborn in a way that other species could not match. They would rather die than break a promise. I will support your plan, Velthar said. May your ancestors guide you. They will, Dae-jung said. They taught us everything we know about fighting impossible battles. Now we honor them by winning another one. The swarm arrived 2 weeks later. Thousands of ships, all organic technology fused with machinery. They moved like a school of predatory fish, organized by the hive mind that controlled them all. They detected the human fleet positioned away from the main coalition defensive line. Exposed. Alone. Easy prey. The swarm changed course. All of it. Every ship turned toward the human fleet. In the command center, Velthar watched the scanners with growing dread. The swarm was committing everything. The swarm hit the human fleet like a tidal wave of teeth and metal. Thousands of organic ships rushed forward, weapons firing ready to consume and destroy. From the coalition defensive lines, Velthar watched the scanners and felt his heart sink. The human fleet looked doomed. Completely surrounded. Swarm vessels closed in from every direction. It was exactly what Dae-jung had wanted, but watching it happen was terrifying. Admiral, you need to retreat, Velthar transmitted. They are going to overwhelm you. Not yet, came Dae-jung's calm reply. Let them commit everything. Let them think they are winning. On the scanners, Velthar could see human ships taking damage. Shields flickered. Armor cracked. Several smaller vessels exploded under the swarm's coordinated assault. The casualty count was climbing. Now they think we are weak, Dae-jung said. Now they will press harder. Watch what happens when humans get angry. Admiral Dae-jung stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable. Around him, his crew worked with practiced efficiency. No panic, no fear, just determination. All ships activate hidden systems, Dae-jung ordered. Weapons free? Show them what we brought. Throughout the human fleet, panels opened on ship hulls. Hidden weapon ports revealed themselves. Cannons that had not appeared on any scan suddenly came online. The energy signatures of the human vessels doubled, then tripled. The humans had been hiding their true strength. Fire everything, Daejung said quietly. The space around the Crucible Nebula turned into pure chaos. Human ships unleashed weapons the Coalition had never seen. Antimatter torpedoes that erased swarm vessels from existence. Railguns firing projectiles at incredible speeds. Energy beams that cut through multiple enemies at once. And something new, something terrible. Singularity generators. Tiny artificial black holes that appeared inside swarm formations. The gravitational forces tore ships apart, sucking in dozens of vessels before collapsing safely. But the swarm adapted quickly. They always did. They changed their formations, spread out, started targeting the singularity generators before they could fully activate. The swarm had numbers. They absorbed the losses and kept coming. A human destroyer named the Defiant took heavy fire. Its shields failed. Its hull cracked open. Escape pods launched, carrying the crew to safety. But the captain, a woman named Jiwoo, stayed aboard with her volunteer skeleton crew. Captain Jiwoo, evacuate your ship, Daejung ordered. That is a direct command. Negative, Admiral, Jiwoo replied. Her voice was steady despite the explosions around her. We still have main power. We can still make a difference. Your ship is lost, Captain. Yes, sir, but we can choose how it is lost. Velthar watched as the damaged human destroyer suddenly changed course. It accelerated directly toward the largest concentration of swarm vessels. The ship's reactor was overloading. The energy signature was spiking to dangerous levels. What is she doing? Velthar asked. Keeping her promise, Daejung said softly. There was sadness in his voice, but also pride. Captain Jiwoo broadcast on all frequencies as her ship accelerated. To all Coalition forces. This is Captain Jiwoo of the Terran vessel Defiant. We are humans. We made a promise to help you. We keep our promises. Her ship hit the center of the swarm formation. The overloaded reactor exploded. For a moment, a new star appeared in space. When the light faded, 300 swarm vessels were gone. Destroyed in the blast. So was the Defiant and everyone still aboard. The communications channel was silent. Then from the human fleet, a transmission, a single human voice singing something. Then another voice joined. Then hundreds, thousands, every human in the fleet was singing. It was a song in their ancient language. Velthar's translator tried to make sense of it. A battle hymn, a song of sacrifice, a promise that their fallen would be remembered, and they kept fighting. Harder than before, as if Captain Jiwoo's sacrifice had made them stronger instead of weaker. Humans do not fear death, Daejung transmitted to all Coalition forces. We fear failure. We fear breaking our word. We fear letting others down. That is why we win. The battle continued. Human fighters swarmed around swarm capital ships like angry insects. Small and fast, they hit weak points and retreated before the enemy could respond. But when swarm forces tried to chase them, the fighters would lead them into ambushes. One squadron leader, a pilot named Wu Jin, demonstrated human flying in a way that defied belief. His fighter dove between swarm ships, threading through spaces that seemed too small. He flew so close to enemy hulls that his shield scraped against them. Coalition pilots watching from a distance felt sick just seeing his maneuvers. How is that possible? A Coalition pilot asked on the open channel. Practice, Wu Jin replied cheerfully, destroying another enemy with precise weapons fire. And stubbornness. Mostly stubbornness. We humans do not believe in impossible. We just believe in difficult and very difficult. The Coalition forces, inspired by what they were seeing, began to change their tactics. They stopped fighting defensively. They started taking risks. They pushed forward. For the first time since the war began, they were not just surviving. They were attacking. But the cost was terrible. Velthar watched the casualty reports from the human fleet climbing. 20%, 30%, 40%. Nearly half of the human ships were destroyed or heavily damaged. Thousands of human lives lost. Admiral Daejung, you must pull back, Velthar pleaded. You have done enough. Let us cover your retreat. We are not done yet, Daejung replied. We have them exactly where we want them. You have lost 40% of your fleet. Yes, and the swarm has committed everything to destroying us. which means they are not paying attention to what is happening behind them. Velthar looked at his scanners. His eyes widened. While the swarm had been focused on the human fleet, coalition forces had been repositioning. Quietly, carefully, they had formed a massive formation behind the swarm. The trap was complete. The swarm was now surrounded by coalition forces while they tried to surround the humans. All coalition ships, you are weapons free, Velthar transmitted. Target the swarm's command nodes. Fire at will. The coalition fleet opened fire. Thousands of ships attacking the swarm from behind. The hive mind tried to adapt, tried to split its attention, but it was too late. The swarm had been so focused on destroying the humans that they had ignored the greater threat. In the center of the chaos, the human fleet suddenly changed tactics again. Instead of defending, they attacked outward. Breaking through the thinning swarm lines, they punched a hole through the enemy formation and kept going, firing at everything in their path. All ships, focus fire on the central coordination nodes, Daijung ordered. We break their ability to think, we win this battle. The swarm had command ships, large vessels that helped coordinate the hive mind's decisions. They were always hidden, always protected, but the human fleet had been mapping their positions throughout the entire battle. Now they went directly for them. A human marine commander named Bora led boarding teams onto damaged swarm command vessels. Her teams wore heavy armor and carried weapons designed for close combat. They went into the heart of enemy ships and destroyed them from within. This is insane, a coalition observer noted, watching the boarding actions. They are going inside swarm vessels. That is where the enemy is, Bora replied simply on the communication channel. You cannot win a war from a distance. Sometimes you have to get close. Sometimes you have to look the enemy in the eyes and prove you are stronger. Her teams worked with terrifying efficiency. They had trained for years in close combat. They understood that war was not just about ships and weapons. Sometimes it was about soldiers on the ground, or in this case, inside enemy vessels. The swarm began to falter. Without their command nodes, without their coordination, the hive mind became confused. Ships started moving erratically. Some fired on each other, others simply stopped moving. They are breaking, Velthar said in wonder. The swarm is actually retreating. It was true. For the first time since the war began, the swarm was pulling back. They had never retreated before. They always pressed forward, always consumed, always adapted. But they had never faced humans before. They had never encountered a species so stubborn that they would sacrifice nearly half their fleet just to win a single battle. The swarm vessels that could still move jumped into hyperspace. They ran. The ones that could not escape were destroyed by the combined coalition and human forces. When the battle ended, space was filled with debris. Thousands of destroyed ships, both swarm and human. The casualty count was staggering. But they had won. Velthar opened a channel to Admiral Daijung. You did it. You actually did it. No, Daijung replied. We did it together, that was the point. To show everyone that the swarm can be beaten, that they are not invincible, and to show that when different species fight together, we are stronger than any hive mind. But the cost, Velthar said. You lost so many. We did, Daijung agreed. There was deep sadness in his voice. Each loss hurts. We will mourn them. We will remember their names. We will honor their sacrifice. But we will not regret this battle. They died protecting 40 billion lives. They died keeping a promise. There is no greater honor for a human. Rescue operations began immediately. Both coalition and human ships worked together to recover survivors, repair damaged vessels. The victory at the Crucible Nebula changed the war. For the first time, species across the coalition believed they could actually win. But victory had come at a price, and the cost confused many who watched the battle recordings. 3 weeks after the battle, the Coalition Council called for a formal meeting with human representatives. They had questions. Many questions. About tactics. About sacrifice. About why humans fought the way they did. Ambassador Su-jin arrived at the council chambers. She was younger than Captains Hyun-soo and Admiral Dae-jung, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. She wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations except a small patch showing Earth, the human homeworld. The council chamber was full. Every species wanted to understand these strange warriors who had appeared from nowhere and changed everything. Kormash, the council leader, spoke first. Ambassador Su-jin, we are grateful for your help. The 7 worlds you saved hold 40 billion lives. But we must understand something. We watched the battle. We saw human ships take damage that should have made them retreat. We saw your Captain Jiwoo deliberately destroy her own ship. We saw boarding teams enter swarm vessels when they could have used long-range weapons. Why do humans fight this way? Sujin walked to the center of the chamber. A holographic display activated behind her, showing an image of a blue and green planet. Earth. To understand how we fight, you must understand where we come from, she said. This is Earth, our homeworld. By all logical standards, Earth should never have produced intelligent life. It is what we call a death world. The hologram changed, showing different scenes from Earth. Massive storms that could destroy entire cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes erupting with enough force to darken the sky, ocean waves tall enough to destroy coastal regions. Earth tried to kill us every single day, Sujin continued. Weather that changed without warning. Predators that hunted us. Diseases that killed millions before we learned medicine. We lived on a planet that was actively hostile to our existence. Then how did you survive? Someone asked. Because we adapted. Because we refused to quit. Because we learned that the only way to survive on Earth was to work together and never give up. Sujin's voice was passionate now. We evolved as what we call persistence hunters. We were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We were not the best at anything except one thing. We kept going. We hunted prey by following them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We survived by being too stubborn to die. The hologram changed again, showing human history. Cities rising and falling. Armies clashing. Technology advancing. Our history is not pretty, Sujin admitted. We fought terrible wars against each other. We created weapons that could destroy our entire world. We came close to extinction dozens of times. We committed genocides. We enslaved each other. We destroyed environments. We did terrible things. The council representatives looked uncomfortable. This was not what they expected to hear. But we also did something else, Sujin said. The hologram showed different images now. Humans helping each other after disasters. Strangers pulling people from burning buildings. Soldiers carrying wounded enemies to medical care. Scientists from different nations working together. We learned, slowly, painfully, but we learned. We learned that our greatest strength was not weapons or technology. It was each other. We learned about honor, about keeping promises, about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. We learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is sacrifice for others. Sujin's voice grew softer. We learned these lessons in blood and fire. We nearly destroyed ourselves learning them, but we learned. The chamber was silent. Representatives who had seen humans as strange warriors now saw something different. A species that had survived its own worst nature and chosen to be better. You asked why Captain Jiwoo destroyed her ship, Sujin said. Because she saw a chance to save billions of lives by sacrificing hundreds. It was a choice only she could make. No one ordered her to do it. No one forced her. She chose. That is what it means to be human. We make hard choices. We live with the consequences. Tolkien, the old historian, spoke up. The legends said humans had a saying. We do not abandon our own. But Captain Jiwoo was not saving humans. She was saving us, strangers, Sujin smiled. The saying is true. But what the legends did not explain is that humans have a flexible definition of our own. If you are part of our community, if you are our friend, if you asked us for help, you are ours. We protect you. That is the promise we make. Even at such cost? Velthar asked. He had been invited to the council meeting because of his role in the battle. Especially at such cost, Sujin replied. Because that is what the promise means. Anyone can help when it is easy. Humans help when it is hard. Over the following weeks, human and coalition forces integrated more closely. Cultural exchange officers arrived. One of them was Tae Sung, a specialist in human arts and philosophy. He gave presentations to coalition leadership about human culture. He showed them human music, songs about struggle and hope, about fighting against darkness, about refusing to surrender. The music was strange to alien ears, but the emotion was universal. He showed them human literature, stories of heroes who won not through strength but through determination, tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, poems about sacrifice and hope. You will notice a pattern, Tae Sung explained to a group of coalition officers. Much of human culture focuses on tragedy and struggle. Other species find this disturbing. They ask why we do not create art about happy, peaceful things. Why do you not? Someone asked. Because we do, Taesung said. But we also celebrate the hard times. We honor the struggles, because that is when we see what people are truly made of. Anyone can be good when life is easy. We celebrate those who stay good when life is terrible. He showed them images of human memorials. Monuments to soldiers who died protecting others, walls with names of people who sacrificed themselves, gardens dedicated to those who helped strangers at great personal cost. We do not forget. Taesung said simply. We remember, we honor. We promise to be worthy of what they gave us. Meanwhile, Commander Bora worked with coalition military forces, teaching them human combat tactics. She stood in front of a mixed group of soldiers from a dozen species, all eager to learn from the humans who had won the impossible battle. Human combat doctrine is different from yours, Bora began. You fight to minimize casualties. You retreat when losses reach acceptable levels. You use logical strategies designed by computers and analysts. This is smart. This is efficient. But it does not work against the swarm. She activated a training simulation. It showed a coalition unit facing overwhelming swarm forces. Watch what happens when you follow standard doctrine, she said. The simulation played. The coalition unit fought well. They used cover effectively. They maintained formation. When casualties reached 20%, they began an organized retreat. The swarm pursued. The swarm always pursued. Eventually, the coalition unit was destroyed anyway. Now watch what humans do, Bora said. The simulation reset. This time, a human unit faced the same situation. They fought differently, more aggressively. They took more risks. When casualties reached 20%, they did not retreat. They pushed forward. They closed with the enemy. They fought harder. The simulation showed the human unit taking 50% casualties, then 60%. But they broke through the swarm line and destroyed the coordination node behind it. The surviving humans, only 30% of the original force, accomplished the mission. You see the difference? Bora asked. You fight to survive. We fight to win. Sometimes those are the same thing. Often they are not. But you lost more soldiers, a coalition officer objected. In that battle, yes, Bora agreed. But we won. And winning that battle saved thousands of lives in future battles. Sometimes you must sacrifice now to save more later. Sometimes you must accept terrible losses to achieve victory. She looked at each soldier in the room. I am not saying our way is better. I am saying our way is different. And against an enemy like the swarm, different might be what we need. One young coalition soldier, barely an adult by his species standards, raised a limb. Commander Bora, are humans not afraid of death? Bora laughed. It was a genuine sound, not mocking. We are terrified of death. Every single one of us. Fear is natural. Fear keeps you alive. But humans learned something important about fear. What is that? Fear is just data. It tells you that something is dangerous, but it does not tell you what to do about the danger. You get to decide that. You can let fear control you, or you can control fear. You can feel afraid and still move forward. We call that courage. Not the absence of fear, but action despite fear. The soldier thought about this. That seems very difficult. It is, Bora agreed. It is the hardest thing we do, but it is also what makes us human. We choose, we always choose, and we choose to help others even when we are afraid. Back on the human flagship, Captain Hyun-soo met with Velthar in private. They had become something like friends during the weeks of working together. Your people confuse us, Velthar admitted. We do not understand why you care so much about strangers. We have been trying to understand. Soo-jin explained your history. The war was not over. The swarm had retreated from the Crucible Nebula, but they were regrouping. Intelligence reports showed them gathering in the outer rim, preparing for another assault. This time they would not underestimate their enemy. The new target was clear. Teranova, humanity's first colony beyond their solar system. It was both a strategic location and a symbolic one. If the swarm could drive humans from their own colony, it would break the spirit of the coalition forces. Admiral Dae-jung studied the tactical displays in his ready room. The situation was worse than the Crucible Nebula. The swarm was coming with everything. 3 times as many ships as before. They had learned from their defeat and adapted their tactics. Velthar entered the room. Over the past months, the coalition commander had learned to read human expressions. Dae-jung's face showed concern but also determination. The Council wants to evacuate Teranova, Velthar said. They believe it cannot be defended. And you? Taejong asked. I believe that if we run now, we will run forever. The swarm will chase us across the galaxy until there is nowhere left to go. We must make a stand somewhere. If Teranova falls, why not here? Taejong nodded. I agree. But this will be harder than the Crucible Nebula. We will need every ship, every soldier, every species fighting together. You will have it, Velthar promised. Word of your victory has spread. Species across the coalition are sending forces. They want to fight alongside humans. You inspired them. We showed them it was possible to win, Taejong corrected. But inspiration is not enough. We need a real strategy. Over the next week, the largest combined fleet in galactic history gathered at Teranova. Ships from 73 species. Thousands of vessels, millions of soldiers, all ready to face the swarm one more time. But the swarm came with more. So many more. Their ships blotted out the stars. The scanners could barely count them all. They outnumber us 3-1, a coalition admiral said nervously. Then the odds are in our favor, Captain Hyun-soo replied calmly. Several alien officers looked at him in confusion. Humans do better when we are outnumbered. It makes us more creative. The battle began differently than the Crucible Nebula. This time, coalition forces did not wait for the swarm to attack. They went on the offensive. Human tactics had taught them aggression. They struck first, hit hard, and kept moving. Pilot Wu Jin led a massive fighter wing composed of both human and coalition pilots. They had trained together for weeks, learning each other's strengths. Now they moved as one, a deadly swarm attacking the swarm. Stay close to your wingmates, Wu Jin transmitted. Trust them, help them. That is how we win. A young coalition pilot, flying his first real combat mission, found himself in trouble. 3 swarm fighters on his tail. His shields were failing. He was going to die. Then a human fighter appeared, destroying 2 enemies in seconds. The third enemy broke away. Stay alive, kid, the human pilot said. The galaxy needs you. Thank you, the young pilot gasped. Thank me by helping the next person who needs it. That is how this works. On the ground of Teranova, Commander Bora prepared defensive positions. The swarm would try to land troops. They always did. She had a mixed force of human and coalition marines, all ready to defend the colony's 20 million inhabitants. Remember your training, Bora said to her troops. Fear is data. Pain is temporary. Courage is choice. We choose to stand. We choose to fight. We choose to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The coalition Marines, who weeks ago would have thought such words were empty inspiration, now understood. They had trained with humans. They had learned human tactics. More importantly, they had learned human mindset. When swarm troops landed, they met defenders who did not retreat, Marines who held impossible positions, soldiers who fought for every meter of ground. And when coalition troops saw their human comrades refusing to abandon wounded soldiers under fire, they learned what it truly meant to say, "We do not abandon our own." In space, the battle was chaos. Ships exploded, shields failed. The casualty count climbed on both sides. But something was different this time. Coalition forces were not just surviving, they were winning individual engagements. They had learned from humans. They took risks. They adapted. They fought with a ferocity they did not know they had. The turning point came when the coalition flagship took critical damage. Multiple hull breaches. Life support failing. The ship was crippled and surrounded by swarm vessels moving in for the kill. Abandon ship, Velthar ordered. All crew to escape pods. But before the evacuation could begin, every human ship in range changed course. They moved to protect the disabled coalition flagship, forming a defensive sphere around it. They took devastating fire meant for Velthar's ship. Human vessels burned and broke, but they held the line. What are you doing? Velthar demanded. You will be destroyed. Yes, probably, Taejong replied calmly. But you will survive. That is what matters. Remember what we taught you. We do not abandon our own. You are ours now. You are our friend. We protect you. Velthar watched as human ships sacrificed themselves to protect his crew. He saw human fighters ramming swarm vessels to buy time for escape pods to launch. He saw human capital ships deliberately taking fire to shield coalition vessels. And he finally understood. This was not tactics. This was not strategy. This was who humans were. They meant every word. They would rather die than abandon someone who needed help. The coalition forces saw it too. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier. They saw humans proving that their promises were not empty words. They saw legends become reality. Something changed in that moment. Coalition crews stopped thinking about acceptable casualties. They stopped calculating when to retreat. They started thinking like humans. They started fighting for each other. A coalition captain whose ship was low on ammunition positioned his vessel between swarm forces and a damaged human destroyer. "I have your back," the captain transmitted. "We do not abandon our own." The phrase spread. Ship to ship, soldier to soldier. We do not abandon our own. It became a battle cry, a promise, a shared belief. Engineers Insu and Mi Young, working from a human technical vessel, had been analyzing swarm communications throughout the battle. They had been looking for weaknesses in the hive mind, and they found one. "Admiral, we have something," Insu transmitted to Daejung. "The swarm coordinates through quantum-entangled command nodes. If we can inject a virus into their communication network, we can disrupt their coordination." "How long will the disruption last?" Daejung asked. "Maybe 15 minutes. Maybe 20. The hive mind will adapt and filter out the virus, but for those minutes they will be confused." 20 minutes is enough, Daejung said. "Do it." Mi Young deployed the virus through captured swarm technology they had recovered from previous battles. The effect was immediate. Swarm ships started moving erratically. Some fired on each other. Others simply stopped, waiting for commands that did not come. "All ships concentrate fire on the command nodes," Daejung ordered. "We have a small window. Make it count." The combined fleet attacked with everything they had. They targeted the large swarm vessels that helped coordinate the hive mind. Without central coordination, the swarm could not adapt fast enough. They could not respond to changing tactics. They could not reorganize their formations. For the first time in the entire war, the swarm was losing badly. Not just retreating, losing, being destroyed faster than they could regenerate, failing to adapt, failing to survive. Pilot Wu Jin led the final strike against the primary command node. It was a suicide mission. The node was deep in the swarm formation, protected by thousands of vessels. But he did not go alone. Coalition pilots volunteered to go with him. "We do not abandon our own," a coalition pilot said simply. It was the young pilot Wu Jin had saved earlier in the battle. "You saved me. Now I save you." That is how this works. They fought their way through impossible odds. Many pilots died, but enough survived to reach the command node. Their combined fire destroyed it. Without the primary node, the swarm's coordination collapsed completely. The remaining swarm vessels broke formation. For the first time, they showed something that might have been fear. They tried to retreat, but coalition forces had learned from humans. They pursued. They did not give the enemy time to regroup. They pressed the advantage until the swarm had no choice but to jump to hyperspace and run. When the battle ended, space around Teranova was filled with debris from thousands of ships. The casualty count was staggering on both sides. But Teranova still stood. 20 million lives saved. The swarm had been driven off, and for the first time they had run in fear. On the surface, Commander Bo-Ra gathered her surviving troops. Human and coalition Marines stood together, exhausted but alive. They had held the line. They had protected the colony. "You fought well," Bo-Ra said to her mixed unit. "You're all Marines now. Human or not, you are Marines. You proved it today." The coalition soldiers stood taller. They had earned that title through blood and courage. In orbit, Velthar's damaged flagship was being towed to safety by human salvage vessels. He opened a channel to Admiral Daejung. "You saved us," Velthar said. "You sacrificed your ships to protect mine." "Of course," Daejung replied. "You would do the same for us now. We taught you. You learned. Now we are truly allies."